Hi, everybody. It's Raquel here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to be doing my first lecture on my account, Forward Energy. This account was created to hopefully bring more education in the environment to people so that we can all build a better future and build a community around sustainable living, sustainable future. And that's really what I want to do, is to hopefully begin these conversations between you and me, all the way to you and your families, you and your friends, you and your communities, your employers, whoever it may be. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. This is the first lecture video, so bear with me. Still getting used to doing these, finding formats that work, and also digesting information in a way that's easy for you guys to understand, because that's the whole point. So this is the first lecture, and a great lecture to start with. It is called A Systems Approach Toward a More Sustainable Future, an Invitation to Academia, with the speaker Nick Hagens. It was a keynote presentation to the Canadian Congress 2024 on behalf of the Environmental Studies Association of Canada. So huge, 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 huge. And Nick Hagens is a scientist and professor. He has researched in his career for over 30 years. And he said that this is a compilation of all of his research. So one thing I'm noticing recently is that there's a lot of scientists and climate professionals that are compiling their work over the last several decades. And what a privilege to be able to witness decades of research being compiled and kind of summarized to hopefully give the most value to us right now. And I don't think it's coincidence as well that this is happening, because I feel and they feel that it is the best time to have this information being spread worldwide. So I want to be that person that does that hopefully brings a sense of community to these topics. And this whole lecture was about human systems, our future, where we are, where we're headed, what we can do. And I think that's a great lecture to do for the first one here on Forward Energy. And I hope that the ones in the future will probably be a bit more streamlined, but this one is a bit more of an overview. So bear with me if it's a bit longer, but we're just getting started. So let's start with the most important thing. Energy. Energy is the most important thing. And we say that culturally, we say it like, oh yeah, energy, vibes, but truthfully, everything in our system runs on energy. And we've always known that. Whether it's labor from a horse pulling a carriage or it's a human churning butter, we put in energy and everything uses energy. So we have that focused on our society. And being the main focus of our society, we've always found different ways to create energy, and oil has been the jackpot of energy. The reason why oil is so beneficial is because of how much because of how much energy it offers us versus how little it comes in the form of. For example, 450 billion human workers in oil is what we use. So if you were to quantify oil in terms of human labor, we have 450 billion human workers in the form of oil. So that is why it's so beneficial for us, is because we get to do things that we never used to be able to do. We never used to be able to fly in planes over oceans to continents, and we never used to be able to do all these things that we can do now. So it's extremely beneficial for us, but it's also incredible because we are using energy at a rate that humanly we could never, ever provide. We don't have 450 billion people on this planet. We only have eight odd. So we are able to access amounts of energy that we could never access being human. And that's why oil has accelerated us to this industrialized society that we live in today. So we had a downturn in oil, and that caused the price of oil to go up. And then there was a period where fracking became a technological advancement that increased our ability to get oil. Fracking is where they input a liquid into the ground and open up like the shelf where the oil is so that they can extract it easier. Extremely damaging to the environment, extremely just resource intensive, and it caused us to be able to access an oil that's called light tight oil. But that oil is more wasteful because it depletes at 80% in the first 18 months. So you have to keep drilling to get it. And once it's gone, it's gone. So we went from having the oil that we would get through the old practices to then finding a new technological advancement that could get us more oil. But that oil that we're finding is something that depletes faster. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's non-renewable, and it's a scarce resource. It's a finite resource. It inevitably is going to run out. So that's where we're at right now. We live in a world that is extremely energy reliant and energy vulnerable, because one little thing in the system, one little break in the system, and a lot of things come crumbling underneath it. So we are more reliant on energy than we even know. There's a fly going around. He's not a paid actor. I actually tried to kick him out many times, so just ignore him. But what that causes for us of this like extremely resource extractive and energy consuming society is that we have a level of energy blindness. So we're blind to how much energy we use. We're blind to how much energy it takes to even get these resources. We're so unaware of it that we use 1,000 times more energy than we need. Like once you go past the basic needs, we use more energy than we would ever possibly need. And that's where we are right now, is there's a lot of consumption, a lot of mindless consumption, a lot of waste. And the ironic thing about it is that the more we create these efficiencies, meaning we find it's just going to be a thing the whole time. Meaning we find better ways to get more energy more efficiently. Like we find better, faster, easier ways to get energy. There's a thing called the Jevons paradox. And it's not that we improve our consumption or somehow become more sustainable by being efficient. It actually means the direct opposite. That an increase in efficiency in a resource use will generate an increase in resource consumption rather than a decrease. So it's essentially a train with no fucking brakes. That's what this economy is. That's what the global economy is. So let's just set the stage right there and talk about where we are right now in like world history terms. We are living within the epoch that can be called, or Huygens calls it, the carbon pulse. The carbon pulse is where all this carbon that has been sequestered in our environment through millions of years, we're talking like dinosaurs, like we're talking millions of years of carbon piling up in our environment, we are using it at such an alarming rate that inevitably it's going to run out. There is no way it can last us forever. So we are living within a pulse where it's like we put our finger on the button, meaning fracking and oil extraction. We put our finger on that button and it created a pulse of use. And now we are at that tipping point where, and we're going to talk about tipping points in other videos, where we need to find different ways to get our energy, or we have to slow our consumption in order to preserve the amount of oil we have, because it is a limited resource. So the big difference between our epoch and our mass extinction event, which is currently occurring, if you're unaware, it's over 70% of wild animal life has been erased from this planet. And we outweigh the amount of mammals 50-1, humans and livestock outweigh the rest of mammals 50-1. So we have essentially created a mass extinction event that is, you could relate it to other extinction events, but it's at this place because of us, not because of a meteor or because of volcanic eruptions causing the sun to be blocked out and smoke in the air and ash, like not over like natural processes. It's over our own consumption and our own industrialization. So we're in an epoch that is almost its own thing, like literally its own thing. Yeah. So if you look at the graph, our carbon, Jesus, our carbon pulse is so small in the history of the world that we don't even realize how much of a blip in time this time is compared to all the processes it took to give us this oil and to give us these resources that we're extracting at such an alarming rate. So if you want to talk about the system, gas, oil, diesel is the blood of the system. It pumps through the veins of our cities and our countries. And if we were to keep a score between the countries, the score would be the GDP. So gross domestic product, meaning how much money are we making relative to how much money we're putting into the industry, profits, margins, whatever, all that shit, right? So our GDP can also be considered growth world product because technically oil is a world product. We don't own anything on this planet, technically. This is God's earth. So we really have a proportional relationship between oil and our GDP, but we also have a proportional relationship between GDP and burning of oils. So Higgins refers to it as gross world burning because that's literally what it is. And the direction that we're heading in is promoting so much efficiency, like even the use of AI to do all these things faster, easier, that we're not really realizing that really we're burning our ability to get these resources by using these resources at this rate. So there's 4 scenarios, and if it's a little bit morbid, I'm sorry. By the end of it, I'm gonna attempt to bring some sort of forward energy to this. The first one is a green growth future. Green growth meaning renewables and Teslas and everything goes green and all that stuff, right? That's what they want. That's what they think is gonna happen. Very unlikely. Very unlikely, but that's what they think is going to happen. And then 2, the Mordor economy, which Higgins calls the economy where people literally focus on prioritizing the extraction of oil and gas and mining, stuff like that, over the energy usage of the average person. So we're going to see the top 1% fighting for oil and fighting for the extraction of oil in a way that more so benefits them than it benefits us. We're kind of currently in that because of how much they fight for oil, how much there is a war in the world for oil that doesn't always impact us. Like the wealth of that doesn't always trickle down to us in the way that we think. So that will really just be if growth happens, business as usual, just keeps going, that we don't stop. And that would mean like a 15-year-old now in 75 years will live in an economy that's like quadrupled in size. And that's just unfeasible, completely impossible, just based on how many resources we have. There's the third option, which is the great simplification, which is a new concept I was introduced to through this lecture, which is where we need to simplify our energy usage. Take it back to the old days where we're churning the butter, and you know what I'm saying? Like it actually may be that in the future because we won't have the energy to consume. It's not like a abstract concept. It actually is a considerable probability because of the fact that there's just not enough energy to sustain us unless we find like different ways at a pace that can supply us. But that's just very hard to do because if we think back to the beginning of our chat, oil provides energy that is at such a large amount compared to every other energy source that it would take some sort of technological advancement that we don't have yet. So not saying it doesn't exist, but more than likely simplifying our lives, reducing our energy will probably be the future of energy scarcity. And then there's the fourth scenario, which is Mad Max. Complete disaster, no stability, no social contract, just complete Armageddon. So yeah, shouts out. So let's talk about some of the things that are contributing to that, some of the things we can see in society right now that emphasize that, that we're heading in a direction of any one of those four scenarios. The five horsemen of the 2020s is what Higgins calls it. Some of the stuff is so funny because I'm like, what the fuck? But this is what it is. There will be a financial bend or break moment. That is because we have so much debt. Most countries are in extreme amounts of debt. And despite us saying, oh, we made the most money this year, GDP is up, blah, blah, like the debt is just growing and growing and growing. I'm definitely going to be making more videos about financial markets, crypto, things like that, because I'm really into decentralized finance and reimagining value systems and monetary systems. So that's definitely a topic for the future. But more and more credit being the base of our society has weakened our wealth, because how much is our wealth actually worth if we have so much debt relative to the wealth? So just consider that. And these are all broad topics, so we're going to go deeper into them later in the future. The second of the five horsemen is geopolitics. So a lot of the wars and a lot of the conflicts we're seeing now are over resources. As they get more scarce, there will be more conflict around resources. We can see that right now. An actual fact is that majority of the remaining oil in the world is in close proximity to Israel. And if we are aware of what's happening right now in Gaza and in Palestine, the US has basically waged a genocide campaign with the help of Israel to completely ethnically cleanse and remove Palestinians from their homeland to extract oil off the coast of Gaza. So it's one reason why they're doing it. There's also other parts of it, but if we consider the geopolitical nature of oil and when we were talking about the Mordor scenario, the top 1% will start doing more and more things that are very disastrous to human health and human survival to establish a control over those resources as they notice that they're more and more scarce. So we on our daily basis, we don't know about how much oil there is left in the world, but let me tell you right now, there's not enough to keep this shit going for much longer. So there's going to be more political affairs surrounding that, and we can see that already. And we'll see a lot of war aimed at capturing the last of oil, which is just pathetic because we need to be thinking about different futures, not trying to hoard what we can of oil. The third horseman is complexity of the 2020s. We have a 6-continent supply chain. We can get products from around the entire world. That is something that we've never been able to have. Human history has never, until now, and the world that the oil has built and these different shipping types of arrangements, like carrying on boats and planes and trains and trucks and all the things that are being pumped with oil to keep running are extremely complex compared to our ancestors who lived in a more localized economy where they could go to a farm up the streets. You know what I mean? We live in a world where we're extremely reliant on other countries, whether we think we are or not. In fact, America, the US, makes up only 4% of the world's population, but 50% of the world's medical prescriptions are used in the US, and 80% of those pharmaceuticals are made in China or India. So there is a huge reliance on a global economy, a global supply chain that is very weak and very reliant on energy that if something were to happen, it's not hard to make it hard to bring something from India to here, because it takes so much to do it. So we're going to talk about that in the future as well. Then the fourth horseman is social contracts. So we have a social contract that is very unstable right now. There's a lot of contention surrounding what's good, what's bad, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And those ideas confuse us. We also have AI now that makes it extremely confusing to be in the world we're in because you don't even know what's real. You look at a video and you literally won't even know if it's a real video or not. And that just adds to a little bit of an estrangement, and the internet as well, an estrangement between what our social contract is, what our imaginings of our social contract is, and if we actually see ourselves like reflected in our society. That's a question that we can answer in the future as well. And then the fifth is ecological damage. So droughts, floods, fires, all the effects of global warming that are currently happening. We're seeing around the entire world, heat waves, droughts, and, farming is struggling and things like that, water scarcity. These are things that are aspects of our 2020s. So in that framework, let's continue with where we're going to go moving forward, because that's what this is all about. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? How can we get there while saving our humanity and, keeping sane? So all in all, and in the most concrete and blunt of terms, we will hit a wall. We will hit a wall. So what we can do for ourselves to make that blow softer and the transition to the more simplified life easier is what we need to be focusing on right now. It should be the top priority of every government, but they want to keep this fucking wheel turning, and you know what I mean? But the real goal is to hopefully aid us in not having these things become so detrimental to our survival that we can't establish a world that is better for us. And the current idea that we have right now is renewables, renewable energy, green energy, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but it takes materials to make renewable energy. It takes materials to make a wind turbine. It takes materials to make a hydro dam. So it's not like these things just come out of thin air. The sun is a renewable energy source because it's just there. Water is renewable because it's just there. Air, renewable because it's just there. But the technology and the machinery that it takes to convert that into energy we can use is not renewable. It's rebuildable, but it's not renewable. So the energy transition that we're currently in is more of an energy addition on top of the already existing oil economy that we're on. It's more of adding onto it for the sake of continuing the consumption at the level it is. The real root of it is the consumption. So let's talk about some crucial timelines. In this graph, you will see that within the carbon pulse, we have the now, which is the star, which is where we prepare before crises arrive. We prepare, we simplify, we try our best to find different ways to access energy, to keep energy, to, hopefully not use as much. Then there's the second timeline, which is the red star, which is the bend or break moments after crises. Now, this could be in the next 3 months. It could be in the next 15 years. Who knows? But this is where it's like, hey, we either bend and reimagine our society in a way that allows us to survive, or we break and we collapse and we all die. No pressure. Number 3 is a more sustainable and stable culture and future. That's where we want to go, right? That's where we hope to go. So globally, Higgins suggests that we stop prioritizing GDP. We have a value system that is so out of whack. The real value in life is livity. It is life. So if we protect life, we protect Mother Earth, we will ultimately benefit. Man, it's like so easy. You would think that they would know this by now. But ultimately, and we can go into this in another video, the world, especially America and the empires that exist, Britain, Canada, America, the major empires were established upon slavery, which is the first instance of raping / exploiting things, humans, people, resources, land, for the sake of building something that is imagined beyond reality, and it's not rooted in reality or in sustainability. It's rooted in greed and evil. So we basically have created a world economy that treats oil and treats resources in that same type of exploitative, extractive, and abusive way. So globally, even if we try to make things more efficient, Jevons paradox we were saying before is going to cause us to consume more. It's not going to change our relationship with this world. It's just going to change how much we use, and it's going to increase how much we use. So we need to find the Goldilocks technology. Higgins suggests that it's not just about the AI pushing us forward and moving us to these advanced places, but and not the past of, you know, things being, I'm gonna call it dumbed down, but I don't want, like, it's more so like more simplified and more remedial, etc. Like, that is not what we need, but then the future is also not what we need. We need the middle ground where we're using technology to actually establish a different relationship with value and with our world system. Globally, countries that make more money don't technically have better living. Like, if you look at the US, claims they're the most wealthy in the world, but materially wealthy maybe, war machine wealthy maybe. But when it comes to comparatively to like Italy, like, they don't have that much better than a lifestyle despite having so much more energy consumption and so much more resources. So yeah, it's not really a true indicator of wealth and value. Overall, on average, we are 14 times more wealthy than people in the 1800s. We are more wealthy than kings and queens at their time. So we are living in a world where we're so blind to how, especially in the empires in Canada, US, in these places where we don't realize how wealthy we actually are in terms of resources, how much we actually use. And we need to shift that to a more regenerative society where we actually compare our economy with regeneration and with sustainability. That's the only way we're going to, as a global community, move away from this extremely disastrous and energy intensive route that we're on. So we think that it's just our politics and our technology and our money, but it's not just that. We're resting all of those parts of our society, extremely important parts of our society, apparently, on the burning of fossil fuels. So we really don't take in like how much of what we have is based on that mentality and that logic of abusing our world, abusing our system. And our Mother Earth is really what we need. We need land back. We need to really honor the true stewards of this world, the indigenous people and the indigenous nations of this world that have spent thousands of years caring for the environment, aware of these things. It's interesting sometimes to watch lectures of scientists talking about these things, and they're being like, we need to do this and that, and we need to start, and it's like, that was literally what they were doing before colonialism decided to ruin the planet. Anyway, moving on. So in our own lives, let's talk about us. In our civil society, we need better education. That's what I hope to do, is bring more education. We need more people talking about this. We need more people learning about how to grow food, how to steward the land, learning from indigenous communities, letting them lead, letting them have more political say and political power. That is really what we need. And we need to reduce the complexity of our lives. We need to use way less water, electricity, food. We need to just have way less energy consumption, and get used to that, because that's the future. And I know there's some movies in Hollywood about societies where the world kind of ends or the world's crumbling and you can only get one piece of bread from the store every month, and like type shit. That actually may be where we go if we rely on these people to tell us how much we can have, if we don't actually adapt ourselves to using less and to having less. We need to transmute the current monetary markers of progress into real capital. So how can we actually compare wealth with world health, ecological health, human health? How can we really quantify that together? That's something else we're going to have to start focusing on. And I think it starts internally. We need healing. We need to unpack the trauma. We need to unpack the colonial mindset, the abusive, like mindset that we have about ourselves, about each other, the capitalistic mindset that we push in our lives every day to keep the system going. A lot of hurt has severed our ability to have community together. And the only way we're really going to build the community we want is if we can heal and heal with each other and address these things. You know, grieving is okay. The world you once knew is not the world of the future, and that's okay. You can be sad. You can be upset about that. Be angry. Let it fuel you, but don't fall into despair. Let it fuel you. Let it become the fire that fuels your passion and fuels the reason why you wake up every day, the reason why you smile at somebody in the street, the reason why you donate, the reason why you learn how to garden and how to preserve your foods and how to, reuse your plastics and your waste. Like, let it be the reason that you change than the reason that you stay the same, because we will survive. I will survive. Bitch, I'm surviving. We need to be the warriors of our future. We need to actually give a shit like this is like a fucking war, because it is. It really is. It's a war on our spirituality. It's a war on our inner spirit, the spirit of God that's in this world, because really the liberty that has always existed. Nothing that we do can change that. It will exist when we're gone. It will exist thousands, millions of years in the future. So we need to actually surrender to the true power that is liberty, that is God of this world, because that's the only way for us to really survive at this point, is to acknowledge that we are not the most smart species on this planet. We're not the most aware and able, that we actually have a lot to learn from the world. We have a lot to learn from the spirit, from animals, from plants, from each other. Decentering ourselves is a huge part of that, and finding a community of people who are focused on creating a new world. So that's what I'm trying to do here. That's what my goal is for all of us, is to create a world that we can actually build something that isn't here, out around us. And I think that's something that is possible. I don't think that we stay still ever as humans. We always progress. We always move forward. But it's about the nature of how we're moving forward that really will set us apart in the future during this global shift that's happening. It's also a consciousness shift. It's a shift of how we feel about each other, ourselves, the planet. So building a community that you can recognize yourself in other people and recognize those ideas in other people is going to be so crucial to not falling into despair, not feeling lonely, and also feeling empowered, so that we can really do this, because we will only be able to do it together. So ultimately, I know this has been a long conversation, but this really is like the introduction to all of this, to where we're going with these talks. And I'm really happy to be doing these. I'm trying to get better at being more open, and part of my healing journey is sharing myself, sharing my abilities, my knowledge, and this journey with you guys. So yeah, let's all do it together. Let's do it vulnerably. Let's do it being willing to learn. I'm always willing to learn more, to expand myself and to be open to more things. So as long as we create a community like that here, that we can do those things, I believe that the energy moving forward will be beautiful. So thank you guys. This has just been the first of many, and I hope everybody has a blessed day. Bye.